everyone, and a special thank you to Tara and Barry for putting this together. My name is Sasha, and I have colon cancer, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about colon cancer, a little bit about me, and a little bit about what you should do to keep yourself healthy. So colorectal cancer, as most of us don't know, is the third leading cause of death in cancer death in the United States. So this year alone, 97,220 people will be diagnosed with colon cancer, and another 43,000 will be diagnosed with rectal cancer. 1 out of 7 colorectal cancers are diagnosed in patients younger than the screening age of 50. To put this a little bit in perspective, less than 1 in 20 invasive breast cancers are diagnosed before the screening age of 40. So folks are getting diagnosed younger and younger. So a new study has found that younger Americans aren't just getting the cancer diagnosis earlier. They're dying, and they're dying at higher rates than in previous decades. The death rate for colorectal cancer in adults ages 20 to 54 has risen 1.4% every year since 2004. For the younger age group, 20 to 39, this percentage is 2% annually. The 5-year survival rate for colorectal cancer when it's diagnosed early is 90%. However, the diagnosis in younger people is often delayed. So people don't think of colorectal cancer in young people. Patients may delay screening or seeing their doctors for symptoms like rectal bleeding or persistent abdominal cramping. The delay allows cancers to grow, meaning that the cancer is not found until the later stages. So most young people are diagnosed between stages 3 and 4. So your stage 4 survival rate is just 10%. My story starts on April 11th of 2017. It was a day like any other. I caught a bad case of E. coli while traveling with a friend in France. And when we got back stateside, we both took the Z-Pack, and she got better and I didn't. So I called my family doctor when I noticed blood in my stool. So I knew something was horribly wrong. I didn't know what it was, and none of my thoughts were cancer. I said, well, maybe it's a parasite. Maybe it's, again, something funky that I caught abroad. They told me to go to urgent care, and they took all the blood samples. They took a stool sample and referred me to a gastroenterologist. He looked me up and down, saw the tattoos, that I was losing weight, and assumed it was drugs. Never occurred to him that it might be something else. My tests were squeaky clean, no parasites, no salmonella, no shigella, no vibro, no shigatoxin, no norovirus or rotavirus. He scratched his head, gave me that quizzical look, and told me that I had all the symptoms of a chronic pot smoker. Haven't smoked pot a day in my life, and his statement was kind of offensive. I was pretty sure I knew some chronic pot smokers, and none of them were losing weight. They were happily munching on snacks and not losing weight. So he referred me to do a semi-endoscopy. For those that don't know what a semi-endoscopy is, just like a colonoscopy, only addresses a part of your colon, not the entire colon. And that was going to be Friday of that week. The whole thing started on a Tuesday. The pain started sharp and debilitating. I felt as though somebody was stabbing me in the stomach repeatedly. But the semi-endoscopy showed nothing. The gastroenterologist informed me that the results of the biopsy would be mailed to me in about a week or so, and to not eat. At this point, I haven't eaten for almost a week. And he laughed and said, well, if I could go 3 weeks on a bed in college, you can just not keep eating for a little bit longer. By Monday, I was in so much pain I wasn't able to function. I haven't slept since the previous Friday, so I regaled myself in calling the doctor's office about every 15 minutes because I was in so much pain that I couldn't quite work. Finally, on Tuesday, they told me that everything was clear and the biopsies came back with nothing. They referred me to a colorectal surgeon at that point, but the appointment wasn't going to be for another week and a half. I was starting to get desperate. I was, by the grace of God, able to get an appointment earlier, so it is end of week 2 at this point. The colorectal surgeon was really confused when I walked in through his door. He told me that he could see that I was sick, but he doesn't see patients with no diagnosis. So he went through a number of things that could be wrong with me and came up with infection caused by the E. coli due to diverticulitis and sent me home. But he did do an x-ray. Not even 20 minutes after leaving the hospital, they called me back and said that I needed to be admitted immediately. The CTs showed a mass in my colon, which they thought was an abscess. At which point they inserted a drainage tube, and a couple days later, they sent me home. So 2 weeks after that, the drainage tube came out, but I got worse. The pain was back and excruciating. I had mucosal discharge from the hole left by the drainage tube, and the stabbing pain in my abdomen got worse than ever. I called the doctor, who told me that the discomfort in the discharge was normal and I should wait for my follow-up appointment. By the weekend, I was so sick I couldn't get up. I called my parents for a ride to the ER since I could not wait till Tuesday. The CT scan revealed that the abscess was worse, and they admitted me once more. I was pumped full of antibiotics and painkillers. Nothing was working. I was screaming through the night. My friend Timmy, who's right here, was witness to that. And to keep me from screaming, they gave me some lorazepam, which made me hallucinate. So I thought that there were spiders crawling underneath my skin and ripped out all of the IVs. My days were filled with enemas that resulted in complete blockage and stool pouring out of now the gaping hole in the middle of my butt cheek. They kept pumping me full of antibiotics. After 7 rounds, nothing was working. The infectious disease doctor tried to urge the rest of the team that I needed to be brought into surgery, but my surgeon was at a conference and his partner didn't feel comfortable performing the surgery, and he later told me that he didn't think that I was going to make it if he were to operate. When I woke up from the surgery, my body hurt everywhere. The overly chipper resident strolled into the room and gave me a big smile. He proceeded to give me a high five and yell out, "Someone's still with us. No one thought you were going to pull through the night." I didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. I died on that operating table. By the sheer grace of God and the skilled hands of my surgeons, I was still here. My colon burst as they were prepping me for surgery, which flooded my system with stool and infection. I went septic, critical, and then flatlined. As my surgeon was removing tumors, affected organs, and attempting to suck the toxins out of my bloodstream. Against all odds, I pulled through. I looked around the room and saw my dad curled up, sleeping in a chair in the corner. Then I looked down at my stomach. It was red and swollen, sporting a colostomy bag on the left-hand side, a zipper of staples, and a drain full of bloody mucus. I took a deep breath. I was grateful to be alive. It wasn't my time to go. The surgery took 21 centimeters of my colon, my appendix, part of my rectum, and the tumor that burst. And another measuring 6.5 by 6 by 2.5 centimeters. The pathology report came back exactly a week after my surgery. The surgeon woke me up at 11 p.m. and told me that the tumors were cancerous, and he wasn't sure that he got all the cancer. Tumor breached my colon, and there was lymph node involvement. He was genuinely concerned. He knew he made a mistake. He told me that it wasn't fair for somebody so young to be so sick. He sent me to an oncologist at the U of M who specializes in HIPEC. And for those of you who don't know what HIPEC is, it's hyperthermic intrapreneural chemotherapy. So this is where they open up your abdominal cavity. They pour hot chemo at 3 times the concentration at 104 degrees Fahrenheit for a period of 90 minutes. It is very effective when you have peritoneal spread. I would find out later that I had cancer cells on my peritoneum and my uterine wall from the tumor that burst. I met with a hospital oncologist the day before being released from the hospital. I spent 9 days waiting for my insides to start functioning and getting used to the new normal. The young doctor, like myself, she looked at me with her big eyes full of pity. She informed me that I had stage 3B adenocarcinoma of the sigmoid colon, meaning that the cancer has breached my colon and 1 lymph node was affected. She advised me that chemo was effective at this stage, and the recommendation was to start as soon as possible, just 4 weeks post-surgery. I wasn't a candidate for radiation. A radiation specialist would later confirm that fact due to the location of the tumor. There was a good chance that radiation would liquefy my bladder, causing more harm than good. The doctor told me that chemo could leave me sterile. With radiation, there's no chance of not becoming sterile. However, with chemo, there's a chance that your reproductive organs will still function post-treatment. She recommended Depo-Provera since it puts your reproductive organs in a state of sleep, and sent me to a fertility clinic. I called the fertility clinic the moment I was released from the hospital, hoping for medication to offset the effects of chemo, or at least an in-person consultation. The woman on the phone told me that my only option was freezing my eggs. The cost was $10,000. No consultation prior to the procedure was available, and you needed to prepay to be seen. I would need to start the process the Friday of that week, since the procedure would not be possible since chemo started. So I had 48 hours to come up with a $6,400 down payment and another $3,600 at the end of the 2-week period. To be honest with you, I didn't have that kind of cash laying around, and I don't think a lot of us do. My financial advisor told me that I would need at least 3 days to receive funds from my IRA or my 401k plan. Furthermore, there was only a 40% chance of viability of frozen eggs and just a 10% chance if you introduced fertilization. In the end, I gave up. $10,000 wasn't going to magically show up in 48 hours, no matter how I looked at it. I was devastated. This was the hardest part of my diagnosis, was I felt like that something was being ripped out of me. The ability not to have children being taken away from me hit me the hardest. And I wondered how many other women were in my situation. This is not the end of my story, it's just the beginning. Tomorrow is a newer, brighter day for the medical community as they continue to make daily advances. My HIPEC surgery is scheduled just 2 weeks from Monday, and I know there is an 11% chance I won't be walking away from it. Another 25 to 56% chance that I won't make it past 60 days, but there is a 38% chance that I'll live past 5 years. Now I know you're asking yourself, how do I protect myself from the disease? Unfortunately, the causes of colon cancer are largely unknown. You can decrease your risk, however, by eating less processed foods. Think of what you're putting in your body. Get regular exercise, watch your weight, and unfortunately, limit alcohol. The American Cancer Society does recommend no more than 2 drinks a day for men and 1 drink a day for women, so don't overdo it. If you exhibit any of the following symptoms, see your doctor immediately and request a colonoscopy. It's irrelevant of your age. People are getting diagnosed younger and younger.